Professor Stephen Hawking has dead elderly 76. The Cambridge theoretic physic was one of the top known scientists in the planet, but which on his show. His popularity amongst researchers was based on an episode of teaching how would Albert Einstein's large theoretical of seriousness, general relative, in the odd planet of quantized mechanical, usually attached to diminutive things love atoms and molecules. Which Hawking ended up in were descriptions of dark holes how could simmer themselves out of life, and equations how outlined the whole story of the world in a solitary broom. Hawking's at first forays in scientific publishing were as an undergraduate in the 1960s, while SameD had just the at first intimations of the engine neuron illness how would be such a big portion of his lifetime. In Oxford Mathematics Roger Penrose, he showed how if down there was a big explosion, it must include begun of an endlessly little spot, in physics speak, a peculiarity. At the period, while the yet cool persistence of the big explosion, same space microwaves backdrop emission, had just fair been detected on the heaven, some cosmologists had hoped for thing less than drastic rather than the concept of an whole world growing out of anything. Along, Hawking and Penrose showed the search for more delicate answers was desperate. Hawking's following enterprise, in the 1970s, was to show how dark holes are not dark at all, but are in reality, as the name of one document put it, white swarm. Dark holes are the final beast of general relative. At first planned and mentioned by John Wheeler, they are regions of area so tight how all during their sphere collapses to a solitary spot else sample of a peculiarity. At the period, it seemed absurd how these gorgons of seriousness should include whatever to do in the sensitive theoretical of quantized mechanical, intended to explanation lighting and the orbits of electrons in atoms. But Hawking showed differently. In reality, quantized theoretical fully changes the destiny of dark holes. At their really fringes, Hawking shown, dark holes would build and emit new suspended particles due to these laws, loser power and therefore loser massive, recall Einstein's equalization E=mc. It would get a dark opening a really length period to vaporize in the path, but in its recent moments Hawking told it would elapse in a break of power counterpart to a millionth megaton hydrogen gas bombs. While the Big Hadron Collider was outdoor in the Switzerland/French rural area external Geneva, down there was expect how the particulate gas pedal might be capable to build microscopical dark holes and so show Hawking's ideas. A Nobel Award would later include been a confidence. But the LHC has seen anything still. Possessing tackled solitary dark holes, Hawking rotated his focus to the world as a entire, the final, inevitable gravity canister. The laws of quantized scientific are as appropriate there as to a disappearing dark opening, particularly at the at first time, the big explosion. Time some researchers struggled to portray a short time in the lifetime of a molecular with quantized laws. Hawking showed it was probable to encapsulate the whole story of the entire world in a solitary mathematics express same wave function of the world, as he named it. Since the express is personality contained, it starts at a peculiarity at the start of period and is closed by else at the end of period, and if required, story can rebound behind and hereinafter among these two volume ends. Down there is no requirement, really no spot, to ask which happened up the big explosion. An current world would explanation himself on its own regulation. Hawking extended work on the aftermath of the theoretical to the end of his lifetime. To aware how such a mathematics specification might already exist is one item, to aware that express is the law one is a far stronger work. Stephen Hawking's reason was not the all-conquering juggernaut of social mythology. Love any scholar, he got it incorrect of period to period, and frequently had to cede destruction in intelligent fight. We occasionally aware of the sense of his preference for gasket downward whimsical bets above discussed points a year's subscribed to Playboy magazine against one for individual site, in one copy. That happened in 2004, while he conceded to machine scholar John Preskill how dark holes were not the final data shredders in the world, a impact he perceivable of his dark opening theories how would include undermine several of the largest basic laws of physical science. Hawking recognized dark holes could keep data on their history, coded once at their edges, the as-called occasion skyline. Lot researchers were disappointed by the easy in that Stephen Hawking engendered transparency, frequently overshadowing some talents in a like emergency or stimulating ideas. His papers were characteristically at the endpoints of mathematics scientific, a future move on the way SameD selected to pursue in his undergraduate days, but they were not ever shut to the center research issues of the date. However, his capacity to draft his intelligent passion for his fragile flesh, and to paint the broad social in profound realms of scientific is indisputable.